Every picture has a doorway into it. And using dodging and burning and cropping, you can actually maximize the visual impact of that entry point. The whole intent is to create doorways or portals into the picture. So when viewers see the picture, their eye has a place to land, and then you direct them through the picture using dodging and burning, lightening and darkening. That's this week's video. So you guys, next week, I want to jump into color versus black and white. And the reason I'm giving you this a week in advance, the next video, is I want your comments, I want your feedback. You guys, tell me what questions you have. This is called 4 Mailboxes. It's a brand new one that I just shot. I want to point out kind of the way I work this up, and I want to create layers of information so that it stair steps you through. You start here, you go here, you end here, you go through all these different layers, so it literally pulls you up through the image. So I intentionally darkened all this up here, and you can see up in the corners it's darker. I feathered the light in through these areas so that there was this bright ridge within the picture, creating depth, because the edges of the contrast in the light and dark create depth. Remember, our eye is pulled to the brightest part of the picture. So by these being in the background and slightly behind this area, it pulls you in deeper. Now, if you look here between the mailboxes, I intentionally left this little line that pulls you through this into here. Again, the idea is that I want you to be able to, as a viewer, have an entryway, which is right here in the picture, and pull you through. Now, part of the reason that makes that entryway work is that we're all very well familiar with mailboxes. We know what they are. There's nothing weird or abstract about them. So our eye will naturally go there because it's what we know. So as our eye lands here, it then slips up in through here, and then it sort of roams around. There's a lot of breathing room within this picture. I also intentionally darkened all this down here. I think it's probably a little too dark now that I look at it on the display, but you get the idea. I want to build layers of information through the picture and have areas for your eye to land and roam around freely in it. And as you see this literally creates a loop for your eye to follow, and it brings you right back into here. So guys, this is called 2 Cabins. It's another new one. When I originally produced this piece, I had left this area through here much darker than it is, and it just felt unnatural. So it was important to go back, and I lightened all that area up so that it kind of transitioned again. So remember in the first one we talked about, I created these layers of information to sort of pull your eye through the picture. And I've done the exact same thing with this image. There are different layers. Your eye will land here, and then it'll float along this ridge, and it'll come right back into here. This is my doorway in. It's either one of these cabins. Most likely, for me anyways, I jump into this cabin because it feels a little more complete, and I see the face, and it's fronting me. So again, I lightened up the cabins. I lightened up everything through here. So actually the way I produced this at first is I darkened the whole picture down. Like I'll show you where I kind of started with this. The whole bottom was darker like this. And then I just lightened the whole area up through here, and then I started feathering the picture back from there so I could begin to see it come together where I want it to go. But now you can see that the skies look a little bit muddy, so I need to still work on that area a bit, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how I worked through this picture. Again, layers of information, layers upon layers upon layers upon layers, and a hard landing spot here. So when you drop into this pit, you go here and you float through it. I'm going to bop through this one. I shot this last fall when I was out in Arizona. It was just the sun had just come up over the horizon. You can see it created these nice little rays of light through there, and it also creates this nice halo around this big old saguaro cactus. Started in color. Obviously it's flat. There's not that much interesting about it. Using the iPhone, it doesn't handle some of these areas very well, so had to work with that. So the first thing I did is I converted to black and white. And again, iPhone does not handle this. This is all the cliff in the background, and it just highlight the light came weird, just the way it pixelated that information. So what I did is I went in and I blurred the background, and darkened and softened everything up. I denoised it and I took out some of the structure specifically. And so then I came in through here and I burned this and I lightened through here actually just a tiny bit. But I left all this just glowing in here. Now I like this little line back through here because it gives it a horizon line. But again, what I like about this picture is it points right into this brighter area and these rays of light drop you back down into it. So you cycle through it really nice. It gives you an entryway and a recycling point. I want to quickly go through three pictures, three different versions of the same shot. As you can see, very different emotional experiences when you look at them, different power to them. This one, it just feels very generic. It's almost like there's two separate pictures. There's an attempt to build this. There's a really hard line through here, a really hard line through here. The only thing I really like about this picture is this edge of the clouds in through there, or this version of that picture. You come here, I added more structure to it, and I didn't spend too much time trying to get rid of that area. I actually liked it. It's soft. There's a neat shape to it. But in this picture, this line really pulls you into the picture, and then you get a chance to just sort of drift through all of this area and through the image. And then look at this one. It's same idea, but then look at what I'm talking about here. This whole area is just like a generic kind of round ball. Look at that again. It's just a round sort of shape. And then all this on the edges is completely lost. It's just overworked. There's no detail down through here. And so the picture's not very successful. Let's go back to here. Even in here, it's dark, but there is detail in here. And there's a lot of detail in these areas. Maybe it's a little too dark. It's a little out of balance, but it's close. Go back to here. Again, there's some detail in here. There's some detail in here and in here. But the picture is just, I don't know where to go. It's very flat. There's some good contrast in this area, but this whole leading line, I'm not using it at all in this picture because I'm not working the light with it. We're here, very prominent leading line. All these lines now, because of the way I dodged and burned and worked this image up, all the lines bring you into this point back here. So you follow it in, and it gives you a chance to lead through the picture that way. Much, much, much more successful. Again, looking at this one, it's just pure mud. There's no, it's just gray matter down here. It's not interesting at all. I don't mind all this up here. It's a little bit muddy. It's not too great. But again, I'm going to click between these real quick. And you can kind of see your eye ends up like this. It really ends up right here, which is what I wanted to do. Bring you to a pinpoint where you can take off on your visual journey. Here, you just kind of hidden all this area. So it doesn't really work for me. This one I shot 2 nights ago. And I haven't even really feel like I finished working it up, but I wanted to just kind of walk through it with you guys. So here's the original shot. I darkened my exposure down to make sure that I had detail in all of this area, which is the highlight. So I wanted to make sure that was all there. And here's where I went with it. So I saturated the color. This area was naturally warmer. So I saturated this area independently of this area through here. All right. Now overall I did saturate the color, but you can see I darkened up a little through here and around through these areas because I wanted your eye to drift up into this area right here. So what happens here, this line brings you right in here. This line brings you right in here. This line brings you right in here. And this line brings you right in here. So the whole idea, again, I like to bring people to the back of my pictures. And so the lines, I'll do that. So you can see here, I darken this pole slightly and darken this pole slightly, leaving these alone. Because then what happens as you drift through it, your eye ends up back there. Pretty simple. Again, I just took what was here and I enhanced it. So this was naturally yellow in this area. So I made it pop as more yellow. This was all naturally blue back here. So I left it all blue and just darkened my exposure down, which saturated the color. So you get that nice line of contrast right through here, which works as a leading line. So you guys, this is one I shot just the other night. And here's the original. Here's where I ended up with it. So let's talk this through real quick. First of all, I could only get so close with the iPhone in portrait mode. I wanted to try it out, see how it would blur the background. So that's kind of was my limitation on this picture, knowing all along that I was going to crop it somewhere into this area. And so you can see here in the crop what I did. And so once I cropped it in tight, I darkened the color down, and then I individually lightened up these areas within the picture because I wanted your eye to sort of bounce through these colors and through these lighter areas within this. You can see that again. So also I darkened all of these areas through here, allowing those flowers to really stand out against the background and give it the maximum pop, the maximum ability to see it. So I use cropping, dodging, and burning on this. So there's the original, and there's where we ended up. So you can see how I cropped it again to tight. So I knew going in that all this down here was going to be gone. Just that was all going to be taken out. I also knew most of this was going to be taken out. And I shot it with intent of cropping it that way. So you can see now how I ended up with that. When I shot this originally, I had intended to crop all along, but I wanted to shoot with the wide angle lens to flare these lines all in towards the back. But this big behemoth of nothing, just this big chunk, which doesn't add to the picture, needed to go away. So you can see here how I cropped it. I lightened up through here. I saturated my color down a little bit. You can see the difference between here and here. But also, I just individually darkened this area through here as well. And then I lightened this area and this area because I wanted your eye to have a place to go. I didn't touch the floor because the exposure already seemed about right on that. But I really wanted your eye's naturally going to end up in the back. So check this out. You're naturally going to end up back here. But I wanted to have just more punch, just more saturation in the color, more vividness up through here. So you can see here, it really does. There's a lot more vivid information. All this green color that's reflected down from the ceiling really jumps out and stands out and works great. And as you drift through this, you go here, all these lines, all these little subtle lines bring you into the middle of the picture is what I really like. But there's just a nice mood to this picture. It gives you time to comfortably get back into the back here and relax and enjoy the piece. So I use cropping, dodging, burning, leading lines, angles, and color contrast to really make this picture jump out for you.